I say, the true position is that the Prime Minister is entirely well aware of the notorious facts, I think my Lord Justice Haddon gave a description of them, of the well-publicised facts, Electoral Commission findings, fact of an appeal, police investigations, ICO, DCMS committees, all clear, publicly done and properly done. And it's perfectly obvious that the Prime Minister has decided to carry on, and that Parliament is proceeding and everyone is proceeding on that basis. It is suggested that the Prime Minister was proceeding and appears to have been proceeding on the basis that the result of the referendum is in some way legally binding. It obviously isn't. Everyone knows that it's advisory. And the idea that the Prime Minister, who was the Prime Minister during the Miller litigation, was under any illusions that this could be taken to be a legally binding referendum is, I respectfully submit, untenable. The fact of the matter is that it was an advisory referendum, as everyone knows, as the Supreme Court made abundantly clear in Miller, and as the Prime Minister and the rest of the Executive are entirely aware. Parliament's legislated in 2017, 2018. There's been enormous parliamentary debate and upheaval, of which my Lords will need no reminding. The process of negotiation has been proceeding for 2 years, and Parliament is still actively seized of the issue, now merely 40 days away from the end of that 2-year period. And it would be a perfectly rational position to say, well, Parliament has had this whole set of issues under its eye, and it would be utterly inappropriate to revoke the notice now, given those real developments and that real parliamentary and executive grappling with the set of issues surrounding the withdrawal from the EU. And so the truth of it is that what has actually happened is that entirely appropriately, a series of properly identified, by which I mean within the statutory scheme that governs these things, bodies are looking at aspects of allegations of misconduct in relation to the referendum. The Electoral Commission has its remit, the police have their remit, no doubt the ICO has her remit, and they are looking at these matters, as everyone knows and as is public knowledge. But none of them so far have reached finality, and none of them suggest that there is materiality in the sense that it might have led or was likely to have led to an alteration of result. And there is here the most obvious and pressing need for any such challenge to be brought with the greatest possible speed. We don't rely upon the bits and pieces that say 6 weeks for challenges of the kind that are permitted by the 2015 Act directly, but we do rely upon that as in this sense, we do rely upon that as at least an indication that Parliament itself is thoroughly well alive to the need to get on with things and to bring challenges timorously in this sort of context. And the potential prejudice to good administration of extending time here would be very great.
Where do you set the bar in terms of deciding that a breach is so significant that it might have unduly altered the outcome of the election and that election should be rerun?
That isn't a bar that we set. What we have quite a specific. We have a specific role. We have a specific role set out within Prepare, which says we look at how the finances and the campaign finances were done and who complied with those rules or not. We have no influence in calling or calling against a referendum, and that we would consider that significant.
Not necessarily a referendum. It could be any election. I wasn't being specific about it.
We would consider that a matter for Parliament.